everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is January. I just released our first pillow of the month, and today I'm going to show you how to finish off our little cross stitch pillows. So if you missed out the pillow of the month release, definitely head back and check out that video. I will link it somewhere around here. I announced our new sew along for 2024. We are doing a pillow of the month. So the pillows are going to drop the first of every month. So those have already been released for January, and we're going to be doing a quilty version and a stitchy version. If you missed our last two monthly sew alongs, definitely check those out as well. We did a truck of the month, which was so cute, and last year we did a house of the month. Today I'm going to show you how to finish off the Stitchy pillows. This is just going to be the simple basic pillow finishing. It's going to look like this. This is our January pillow, and I've just got some fun accent fabric on the back, and it's just stuffed with pillow stuffing. The other option would be to stuff this with walnut shells. That is perfect if you're doing a pin cushion. It also makes it a little bit more weighted, so sometimes that's kind of nice as well. And of course, you can always finish them however you want. But I did want to show you just the basic tutorial for how to finish off these pillows in the most simple way. As we go throughout the year, I have a couple other finishing ideas that I want to do for some of the other months, so I will be sharing those as those months release as well. But today I'm going to show you how to finish off our cute little Stitchy pillow of the month. And believe it or not, I hand sewed this guy closed, and can you tell? I don't think so. Yay! It turned out so good. So let's go ahead and get started with today's tutorial. So as we mentioned before, I'm going to keep the January pillow finishing pretty simple. So we're just going to need our stitched piece, a piece of batting, our backing fabric, accent fabric, some pillow stuffing. You can also use crushed walnut shells if you want to turn this into a pin cushion or kind of a heavier weight. I'm just going to use the pillow stuffing, and then I'm just going to use some of my regular Aurifil thread to close up our opening when we turn it. And then of course I've got a little point turner in here that's going to help me put in my stuffing and poke out my corners. And then I'm also just going to be using a little needle. These are Lori Holt binding needles. So I've just got a needle with some thread on it, and I'll just use that to close up my opening. And then you can make these whatever size you want. I trimmed mine all to 4 inches. That's going to yield me a finished little pillow of about 3.5 inches. So you can do a wider border around this if you wanted. If you wanted to make a larger pillow or framed piece, you could even sew fabric around all 4 sides just to increase that space without having just a bunch of empty cross-stitch fabric. So it's totally up to you, but I've cut all 3 of my pieces to 4 inches. So next we're going to take our accent fabric right side up. We're going to take our stitched cross-stitch piece, our finished cross-stitch piece, right side down, and then we're going to layer our batting on top of all of that. Then we're going to sew around all 3 sides using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I am going to leave a little opening here at the bottom to turn our pillow right side out. Now, one thing that I have found helpful is to back stitch where you stop and start. That way, as you're kind of pulling on this fabric a little bit, those seams will hold. The other thing you can do, and I am going to go ahead and show you, is you can cut your batting just slightly smaller than these pieces. That'll take away some of the bulk when you're sewing everything together and turning it out. So what I'll normally do is just cut off about 1/4 inch. So I would just cut off just about that much. And here I have 1/4 inch lines. So it's not going to cut off a ton, it's just going to give us a little bit less bulk in our seams. And this is totally optional, you don't have to do this. So as you can see, now our batting's just a little bit smaller. It will still get caught in our stitch line, but it will release some of that bulk on the edges. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this to my machine, like I said, so around all 4 sides, leaving that opening for us to turn. All right, so here is our piece. We've sewn around all of the sides, but we did leave an opening here. And before we turn it right side out, I am going to just trim off my corners. That's going to get rid of some of the bulk. And you just want to be careful you don't go into your stitch line, of course. And we're just going to do that on all 4 corners. And as you notice, I'm kind of rounding them off a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to finger press this just a little bit there and here. So I've just pressed that back. That's just going to give me a guide to follow when I go to stitch this opening closed. Now very carefully we're going to turn this little pillow out, and it is kind of a pain because it's not a very large hole, but just do your best and take your time on it. Try not to pull on that seam too much. Once you get the bulk of it going, it goes pretty easy. And then I'm going to take my point turner and I'll pop out those corners, and I'll usually just run it along that seam as well. That just helps. Just be careful you're not going through your stitch line. And there we go. Look at how cute that is. And now because we finger press this in a little bit, our opening is a little bit more, that'll be easy for us to see where to stitch closed. And you can press this with your iron if you want. Since I'm going to be stuffing it anyways, I'm not really going to worry about that. The other thing you could do is just take a little seam roller and seam roll that seam just slightly as well. And this is just a seam roller. I got it at Fat Quarter Shop. Okay, so here's what our little pillow looks like. Now it's time to stuff it with some stuffing. So I am just going to use my fingers and I find it's easiest to do a little bits at a time to get started. So I just grab it and try not to pull too much on these seams though, because this fabric on the back, you could, I suppose, starch it so that it doesn't stretch too much, but it will be just a little bit stretchy, and you can stretch that seam, and then when you go to sew it closed, it can just, you can tell that it got pulled on. Now these are little pincushion pillows, so nobody's going to be that picky about it, but just a tip. And rule of thumb, I usually stuff a little bit more than I think I'll need, and I do my best to push it away from my opening so that I can stitch that up. All right, now that my pillow is stuffed, we're ready to sew it closed. And the other reason why pre-pressing our little seam here is going to help us is we're going to use that as a guide while we're sewing our pillow closed. You can do whatever stitch you want here. I had normally, I think on my ornaments last time I did a whip stitch, or I might have even machine stitched them, but you can definitely see that. So we're going to do something different. A viewer had suggested that we do a ladder stitch to close, I think, my ornaments this year. And so I thought, you know what, that would be a great idea. So I thought I would teach you guys how to do that. So I've just taken my thread. I've also tied a knot in the back of my thread, and so it's just on my needle and ready to go. It would be better if you use a color that is similar to the color here. You could also match the color of your cross stitch fabric as well. I didn't have that color, so I'm just going with white. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our needle, and for our first stitch, we're going to go up in between where our crease is. So I'm going to literally come out right in that crease. See how my needle's just coming right out through that crease that I finger pressed. So I'm going to just come out right there. This is just our start. I already have a knot tied in my thread right there. So when I pull that through, it's secure. And then I can just tuck that tail down inside there. And then I'm going to come across to this one. We're going to go into our crease, and then a little bit farther down, we're going to come out of our crease. So on the opposite side, we're going to go down into our fabric and back out of that crease. And I'm not going to pull it yet, I'm just going to leave that. Next, I'm going to do the same thing coming back over to this other side. We're going to go into the top of the crease and back out. So I'm just taking like a little bite out of that crease. And we're going to repeat this. You can see I'm starting to get these little ladders across my piece. That's why it's called the ladder stitch, I believe. It looks like ladder, little rungs on a ladder. Again, we're going to go down into our crease and back out a little ways down. And we're just going to repeat that all the way across until our opening is closed. And because I'm using a lighter thread, I'm kind of trying to go just slightly to the inside of my crease, so hopefully it will hide itself when I pull it tight. In and back out. And I'm trying to use the cross stitch squares to my advantage. So I'm sort of going in one square and out the other. Okay, so you can definitely really see those ladder rungs right there now. And then if you gently pull on it, it will tighten those stitches. And look at that. you can see that it really hides that seam. So it's a perfect seam for these little pillows, and thank you so much for the suggestion, because I do think that is a better way to do it than how I was doing it before. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish all the way across here. I'll probably speed it up for you, and then I'll show you how I finish it off at the end. Okay, I've made it all the way to the end, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten up all my stitches, and I do tighten it as I go just so you're not pulling too hard to get it all the way across this opening. But I went ahead and tightened it. Just don't break your thread, and then I'm gonna come into my last one here just like normal. And when I come out, I'm gonna let my yarn make this loop right here, and I'm just gonna go through that loop to make a little knot and kind of tighten it. And I like to do it twice just because I just like to make it a little more secure. It depends on what you're going to be using this for. This isn't going to get any heavy wear and tear, but I usually do it twice. And then to hide the final thread, I'm just going to go back in through that hole, and then I give it a little bit, come down somewhere out here, and just kind of tug on that. And then I'm going to just trim off this thread right there, and voila. Here is our little finished pillow. And then the last thing that I do is kind of squish my pillow stuffing so it gets down here along this edge, because I usually try and push it away from that edge before I start sewing just so it's out of my way. And then look at that, we have a really cute little pillow. If you want to use it as a pin cushion, I recommend doing the pinning on this opposite side right here so that you're not ruining your stitching. And then when you turn it over, your stitching still looks all nice and neat. So that is it for our Stitchy Pillow of the Month finishing video. Stay tuned for next month for the February pillow release. And don't forget to share your progress in our Facebook group as well. I would love to see both quilty and stitchy versions in there. I love seeing how you all choose to finish it, your fabric and different colors, and even different finishing options are always so cute. And I think it really helps give other people ideas as well. So that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a little something new with that ladder stitch. So that is it for our little finishing pillow. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're looking forward to our 2024 Pillow of the Month sew along. And don't forget to share your progress for your makes in our Facebook group. I will make sure to link that below as well. That's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next month for our February Pillow of the Month. But today we're going to take a look at how to just finish off our cute little cross stitch. Oh.